And as always, go right into it.
Let's do it.
Right into it. So, welcome. I'm here with Rubi Sanchez, and this is Rise Like the Sun podcast. Man, where do I start? So, what I know about Rubi. I started working at Equinox over 2 years ago. Then I went away, and then I came back and had to rebuild through like the onboarding and ramping up, and saw new coaches. And right off the bat, Rubi was one of the first that I noticed, crushing it with kettlebells, and also this intensity, this like focus to detail. I saw that, and I don't think I've ever told you about that.
This first time here.
But there were probably 4 to 6 new coaches, and you could tell she specialized in something. And then just like when I would chat with her about nutrition, about kettlebells, it was pretty easy to see how like when something's a part of her life, she makes it a big part. She goes full in on it. So I'm excited for you guys to hear her out here. So Rubi, welcome.
Thank you.
I'd love to just start with you telling us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and how this whole fitness journey came about.
All right. Well, I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Definitely, I've always been a child that has been very active and very energetic. So I feel like very young, my parents put me in, starting off with ballet, and then gymnastics, dabbled in a little bit of ice skating and piano lessons, and always was very involved in different things. And then as I've got older, we actually moved from New York. So I was born in New York. We moved from New York when I was 10 years old to Puerto Rico because of my mom's job. And then when I was there, everything was super different. So everything stopped, that it wasn't going to any activities, things like that. So I had to find a new way to kind of find myself again and make friends. And
everything you just named as activities were before Puerto Rico.
Correct, that was all in New York.
Gotcha.
So there I was in 5th grade, and then in 6th grade, you were able to join sports.
Okay.
And so I said, okay, let me try something different, and I signed up for cross country because it was the first thing that was available, and I was like, okay, let me try this, and that was the start of it all. I mean, ever since that, then the next season was track and field or basketball, and I was like, okay, let me do that. Let me try this. And I just kept doing something. That way I was always involved and not having to go home after school right away, and I can just make more friends and things like that. And then that kind of just snowballed from there. I found my passion for being competitive was always a big thing, and just being active. I always loved it. So kind of kept on from there and grew from there.
What was cross country like? What do you remember from that? I mean, I sort of know cross country. I've never done it, but like, I mean, you probably ran some pretty far distances for like, what was that? You're 11, 12 years old now, or?
6th grade, I was like about 11 years old.
11, yeah.
I think at that time we were running a mile distance. Was
okay.
What we were doing. I mean, it was at that point I hadn't really ran, so it was different. It was a lot, but I just did it. I mean, it was always fun to be outside and be around people, so I liked that. As I kept going, I think I did cross country till about maybe my sophomore year, and then it went up to like 2.5 miles in varsity. And I mean, that became tough, especially in the humidity and running at 2 in the afternoon when the sun is beaming on you. That was definitely interesting. It was a lot of tough days, but we did it. Like, it was always fun going on the away games. So I lived in Aguadilla, which is on the west part of the island. And because it's such a small island, a lot of the meets and practices were all going to be in San Juan, on the other side of the island.
So I know San Juan.
Yeah, it's the capital. So that was always interesting, traveling every Friday or whenever our meets were 3-4 hours. So we would leave school at 11 a.m. So it was always fun to leave school early, or 10:30 depending on the distance.
Yeah, but this is high school, 3 to 4 hours.
travel to get to our
and you
meets.
gotta travel back. Talk about like
we would get back around
homework,
11 p.m.
social life, like.
So that was one of the reasons I ended up not doing track and field in high school, was because I wanted to like have more social life. And every Friday was our meet, so that's when people had get-togethers, parties, different things. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
And then you did track. What was the event that you did in track?
So track and field. I think it's 8th grade. I think I stopped running cross country actually, and got more into track and field because it was shorter distances, and I felt like it was better for me. I was more of a faster, more speed, more explosiveness. So I started with the 400 meters, 4x1 relay, 4x4 relay, and then I did a little high jump until there was a little injury incident.
So we're definitely going to get into the injury, but before that, high jump. What was your highest jump? How did you train for that? Like, how did you come about, like, oh, I'm good at this? What?
I mean, I guess, I don't remember exactly how we figured it out, but definitely during practice, you're trying different things. Your coach sees what you're doing good at, what you're not doing that great at. I was always very fast, and that's why the track and field definitely helped me transition into basketball, because I was up and down the court. I was always the first one, last one on the court. Fast breaks, I was always down the court. So a lot of my practice time was split between track and field. I would do half a practice, like from 2:30 to 3:30. Then I would run over to the basketball court and finish my basketball skills practice from 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. And that's kind of how that came about. Not many athletes were able to do both, but if you were good enough, they would allow it.
Yeah.
And especially because it was a very, very small school, there wasn't that many athletes to do both. So when you could do both, it was interesting.
Stay tuned. We're gonna see Ruby's jump shot. I don't know when this summer, but it's coming out. The camera's definitely coming out for that. No, that's super cool. So, and you talked about that competitiveness, that you really started to get your first feel for competing. What was that? Do you have a moment when, like, you realized, like, man, I love competition, or something that made you cry, or like a tournament you didn't win, you got upset by?
I mean, I want to say the drive really started when I was 7. My dad and brother used to go play basketball with my uncles, and I always wanted to be involved, and I was told that I could not go because I was a girl, and that always stuck with me, and I always made it a point.
They both said that?
I mean, like, I would be able to play, like, they wouldn't allow me to go with them. Like, they were like, oh no, you can't go because you're a girl, you gotta stay home. And so that always kind of drove me to make it a point that I can always do what they could do, what my brother can do, even though I was the oldest. Him being in a Spanish household where the female is kind of protected more and kind of sheltered more, I kind of always went against that and just always wanted to show that that wasn't going to limit me, and I always can persevere more than that. So when I started competing, I just always wanted to be the best, I guess. I just always wanted to show that I can do more than you thought I could.
That's awesome. You let it all out. What about that injury? You talked about in the high jump. What happened there?
So with the high jump, is you usually jump, there's like a setup like this, and then there's a pole in between, right? You run and you jump over and you land on a big mat. I kind of over jumped, and instead of jumping like straight onto the mat, I jumped more diagonally. So I landed on the floor and got a concussion. For like 2 minutes, I was out.
Oh no.
And after that, every time I would just run up to the bar, I was very hesitant. And I noticed that, and that was a 4'8", I believe, was the height on that.
Okay.
And so after that, I just kind of would find myself hesitating more, and I was getting better at the sprinting and needed to dedicate more time to basketball. It was just a lot to try to really put into all those events. So I just focused more on the sprinting, which eventually also transferred over into basketball. And so that helped me more. and I kind of stuck it out there instead.
Gotcha. Okay. And now, college? Did you go to college? What's that whole journey? You're still in Puerto Rico. How did you get coming back to New York? A lot of this stuff I don't know about you.
Yeah, it's a lot of
so I didn't know this whole time in Puerto Rico. So now, how do you get back to America? It is in America. But.
Yeah, so basically, so my mom worked for ICE, which is the Immigration Customs Enforcement, Homeland Security. And with that job, you have the availability to get promotions and they kind of move you around. Back to Puerto Rico, that school was a federal school, so a lot of the students in that school were Army, Border Patrol, Navy, federal jobs, right? So a lot of people are moving every 2 years. I was one of the few that actually stayed there for 8 years. And at that point, my mother got a promotion, so it was another move. And that move was gonna be to Florida. And at that point, I ended up falling in love with Puerto Rico and the island and the sun and the beach. And I wanted to stay, but my parents were like, no, you're coming with us. So that was the plan. Actually, the plan was for me to come to college, college in New York. Because after moving here, I always wanted to come back. And that was always a thing that my mom was like, well, after high school, you can go wherever you'd like. So that was my plan. But of course, parents have different plans for you. And at first, she made it an option where I can come to New York if I wanted to, or go with them to Florida. I decided I wanted to come to New York because that was always my plan all throughout high school, all through the whole time I was there.
Do you remember why?
I mean, I guess it rooted back to when we moved away from here at 10 years old. I felt like I got ripped out of like my hometown, kind of. Most of my family's here. I was very close to my cousins. We would see each other every weekend or every week. There was always a lot of like coming together. So when I moved to Puerto Rico, I have no family there. Everything's totally different. So it was more isolated. So I kind of guess I just always wanted to come back to where I felt like that community and family, I guess. Gotcha. So now you're in Florida. So then I ended up having to go to Florida with my parents.
Whereabouts?
We ended up moving to Tampa.
Okay.
Tampa, Florida.
Never been.
It was cool. I still was gun-ho on going away for college, so I ended up going to Florida Gulf Coast University.
Okay.
And that was definitely an experience. I got to dorm there, and that was very cool. Again, I signed up for a flag football team. Okay. So I can meet friends.
No. More like I'm beating up the boys.
Well, I gotta show them, that we can do it. We can do it.
This meet friends.
And then it became very social. There had a lot of. So it ended up being, I would go to class, then we would have the flag football games, finish around 9:30, and then they had the parties afterwards. So that was kind of the routine. And it was fun. Like I said, it's another way to stay active, meet more people, and get more involved.
4 years you were there?
No, so I was only there for 2 semesters. And then I ended up just moving back home. So that was in Fort Myers, Florida, which is about 2 hours from Tampa. And then I moved back home and then just went to Hillsborough Community College. Finished another 1.5 years there. And then after that, I kind of was in a place where I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was kind of getting bored with the people around me. I felt like, it was all fun and games. I had a lot of fun, people were partying, but then I just felt like everybody around me was just into partying and just into having like the same thing. Like I didn't see nobody progressing. And I kind of started looking at my life, where do I want to go? And I have a lot of family in the military, so my cousin was visiting one day and she's like, you should join the Air Force. And that became centered. And so I said, okay. I mean, obviously going to the school that I went to, that was always pushed on us, so I kind of was against it. Like even in high school, they made us take the ASVAB, which is the test that you need to take to join any military branch. So I already had that. And then, like I said, this is 2 years after high school. So at this point, my cousin's convincing me it's a good career opportunity. Things like that. Yeah, so my cousin, she was a nurse. She became a nurse in the Air Force, and she ended up meeting her husband in the Air Force. So like they had a whole family, and they're like, this is great, you should do it. So I came to New York that summer of 2011 or 2012. because the recruiting was faster here.
Okay.
They personally knew a recruiting officer that was here, and it was going to be a lot faster process than if I were to do it in Florida.
Okay.
So I said, okay. I came over to New York, brought all my things, and I started that process. So I met with the recruiter, started the process. They kind of have you do like in-house training. That way you're kind of already in a good state for when you go to basic training. And as I was doing that, my recruiter had a vacation planned. So he was like, I can transfer your file over to another recruiter if you'd like, or you can wait, I'll be back in a month. And I was like, okay, that's doable, that's okay. I have a few things I want to do before I actually go. So let me get a job in New York, and then I'll wait and I'll see you in 30 days. So I ended up working at a restaurant, in a Mexican restaurant as a hostess. Mm-hmm. And that was the job that I got. And after a few weeks...
Is this restaurant still around?
It is. It's called Rancho Grande. It's in Yonkers.
Okay.
And they have good Mexican cuisine. They have live entertainment on the weekends. And
maybe that's where this podcast should be hosted.
Should be hosted there. They have good frozen margaritas.
Shout out to Bluestone here in Manhattan West. So, no, nice. So now you're waitressing.
So now I'm a hostessing. Hosting. And then they asked me if I wanted to learn how to bartend. At this time, I'm 19 years old. I'm like, why not? Let's do it. And so I started doing that. It was learning drinks, being more involved with people and the guests, and that became great. I was making really good money. And after a few weeks of that, I kind of like just got into the groove and got excited that I was making really good money, having a good schedule, and being more independent. And I kind of was like, you know, this might be for me. Maybe I don't want to go to the Air Force. I also looked into the Marines because, like I said, I always trying to be that much better or that much tougher. What can I do that's the best? So I started looking into the Marines, did a couple of training sessions with them, and then...
And you don't like to be told what to do.
I don't.
Even though your cousin, you can understand, had the best intentions.
Yeah,
she probably also saw like, man, Ruby seems like, she wants something different, and this worked for me. 100%. And you agreed with her, it made logical sense, but you're like, man, I'm gonna try this thing here.
Exactly. And then eventually I just realized that I didn't want to do it, and that I wanted to pursue the bartending and kind of just do that for a while. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up doing that for about 2 years. And then again, started reevaluating, okay, like now what? Like what's the next step? Like I worked with a lot of people who were in their 40s and 50s bartending, serving. Not that that's bad, that's great for them. The money is really good, so it is hard to like leave that. But it's not something that I wanted to see myself doing at that age. I'm like, okay, and I got to start thinking about now with the future. So at that point, I kind of staying in the same field. I decided to go to community college in Westchester for criminal justice.
Gotcha. You know, I went to school for criminal justice. St. Anselm College, shout out. Okay, so criminal justice, how'd it go?
It went well. At that point, since I decided not to do the military, I was like, always liked detective work, always looking at law shows, police shows. So I was like, maybe I can do the police force. So I took Yonkers police test, Westchester County police test. I even took the FDNY test. And basically, I was told if you have college credits, when you come on to that job, you will be at a higher rank, you get a higher pay. So then, okay, cool, I'll go get my criminal justice degree. That way, I'll get a higher pay when I do join. I got my associate's criminal justice, and at that point, I was gonna transfer over to John Jay College to get my bachelor's. And again, I just didn't see myself going in that route. There was a point actually where I even took the Border Patrol test, right? So my mom being in that federal position always pushed me to have that kind of secure federal job with a pension and everything. Did all the steps, and then finally decided not to go. So in order to do that job, I would have had to move to Arizona, Texas, the southern border. That's where you start off. And I already had a friend from high school that he took that job on 1.5 years earlier, before they made the polygraph.
Wow, you think he would have been caught too?
I don't know. But funny enough, he actually went to the same college I did too, at Florida Gulf Coast University.
Oh, wow.
So it was really interesting. But he gave me a lot of insight on the job, and insight that I didn't think that I wanted to be the one to end somebody's journey to a better life, right? A lot of these people are coming over from Mexico or from anywhere that they're coming over for a better life. And I couldn't see myself arresting them and doing all that. And it just didn't align with things that I believe. So it worked out. Like everything always works out the way it's supposed to. So I ended up just staying in New York and then continued to work in restaurants, making money, and then going to school. And at that point, I decided to just keep working until again, reevaluating, okay, what's next? I started working at a gym and I started selling personal training.
Why? How did this come about?
I just needed more income. So I was working at the restaurant and then I wanted to get a second job. I would go to LA Fitness to work out. And there was one day where I had a bad day, actually, and I went to the gym a second time for the day. And
oh, wow.
So the people who were there and they saw me earlier in the day, they're like, oh, what are you doing here again? Like, weren't you here earlier? I was like, oh, I just need to like refresh my mind. And I'm going hard in the studio room and one of the guys comes over and he's like, oh, you know, we're looking for trainers, or no, actually they're looking for people to sell personal training. So there they have people that sell it and the people who train are not the same, you don't have to do the same thing. And I was like, not really into it, but he kind of like persuaded me and pushed me. He's like, oh, come on, let's meet my manager. And I was like, okay. And so that kind of just came about.
Wow.
And that's how I started selling personal training.
LA Fitness in Westchester?
Correct, in Yonkers.
Wow. In Yonkers. So now you're selling personal training. So how is this going?
So it was tough. I didn't really consider myself a salesperson, but I connected well with people. And as I'm interviewing these clients to see, match them up with the right trainer, they would connect with me and they would be like, I want you to train me. Can you train me?
Wow.
And I was like, well, that's not really how it works here. I'm not a trainer. And so one day I'm like, well, why not?
Wow.
And why am I not a trainer? Like, I could do that. I work out. I know. And so at that point, they were offering a certification in-house. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to go for it. And then I took the course, got the certification, started training people, and started going on that journey.
Super cool. Super cool. So, and now, all right, so you're at LA Fitness. So now you're a trainer. Take us to when you are a trainer, how it's going, like, from there to now, and what brought you to Equinox?
All right, so I start training, and I just really find it rewarding to see people become and do things that they didn't think they could do. Yeah, I had a client one time, she was like 80 years old. She couldn't open a bag of oatmeal. Like, she would tell me that every morning she would open it with a scissor. And after training for a few months, she was like, oh my God, Ruby, I'm so excited. Guess what? She's like, I was able to open that bag of oatmeal. And I'll never forget that story because it was something so small that you might take for granted. And she was so happy with it. And I was so happy that I was able to help her with that. And so that kind of showed me that I like that kind of job and that I like helping people, and I find it rewarding. And I just always am trying to give to people. It's just kind of in my nature. I'm always trying to like just help someone or like just be involved, I guess. And slowly into that, I'm always like touchy people. So like with my clients, stretching and things like that. And people would start telling me, oh, you should do massage therapy. You should do massage therapy. But it wasn't really something that I thought was really like profitable or something that you could really make a career out of. And working at LA Fitness, one of the guys knew a personal trainer that was also a massage therapist. And like, oh, you should have a conversation and see if that's something that you're interested in. Had that conversation, basically ended up looking at schools. And like I said, it kind of just happened. They were like, okay, you're signing up for the next semester. I was like, okay. And they were like, don't worry, we got financial aid, everything works. And then it just kind of happened so fast. Ended up going to massage therapy school for 2 years, got my associates in that as well. And now I'm a licensed massage therapist and personal trainer. And I really liked how those two worlds kind of collided and worked together and just learned more about the body, how it works and how it moves and how it functions.
And that's what I see, right? And then that brings to how I see Ruby every day in the gym now. So hearing all that, 90% of that I did not know. Now, a lot of it was, and then I thought about the next thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Would you care to share, like, where you see yourself, and it's a cliche question, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, but like, ideally, like, that Ruby. If you want to manifest it, you got the camera here,
This
right?
will be the first time.
Right? Like, I mean, I know it's not easy. We all know you have stuff in your heart that you want to do that's running through your mind that maybe you don't want to share, but maybe you do put it out there. I think there's probably a lot of people who are listening to you who are probably 2, 6, 8 years removed from where you are now. They got that cousin telling them maybe you should do this. They're working that job in a restaurant where I see some stuff I like here, but there's more. And like, you didn't have a life plan of LA Fitness or massage therapy, but like it all came together. But you have a plan now.
I mean, I don't really have a super plan, but yeah, everything kind of just fell into place. My plan now, 5 years from now.
Where would you, Who's Ruby 5 years from now?
I mean, I would like to transition my business, my in-person business, to more of an online business, just to give me flexibility. And I would love to travel. I like to travel. I like to be in a warmer weather. New York has been great to me. I've been here now for like, since 2012, so about 14 years now, I guess. No, 12 years. And I never really saw myself moving, but I'm at a point where I do see myself being able to expand and going to a more warmer climate and kind of just traveling. So I want to move my business online to give me flexibility to do more things, explore more, and just travel. That's what I would like to do.
You will. Yeah.
It will happen, yes.
Travel, no, that makes that, you said it.
And it would just give me more opportunity to help more people in a shorter amount of time without exchanging that time for money situation. You know, you can do a lot more.
I 100% agree with you. I think you're right on that. And I think it will help you more because that's what you want to do. You want to travel. So like you'll be happy that like you're traveling, you're seeing new areas, and who knows what kind of, you're great with when something sparks, you go for it. And like you said it, you want warmer weather. Like, can you do retreats? Can you host sessions?
Yeah, that would be great.
Meet new people, right? Like, and that stems from, I think, less so I'm gonna start a retreat or I'm gonna meet new people, and I think more so like I love to travel or I love to help people with mobility, with kettlebells, with right, and then it comes together. We still haven't talked kettlebells, and we still haven't talked.
It's a lot, yeah.
How Ruby rises. Kettlebells. I'm gonna give 5. I'm on the spot. 5 quick questions.
Okay.
Kettlebell. Here we go. Like they always do, right? You only one word answer.
Okay, one word answer.
So we got question number 1. Favorite kettlebell move.
Favorite kettlebell move? Jerk.
All right. Question 2. Hardest kettlebell move to do.
I'm gonna say.
I don't know if we got question 3 in, but I think it probably was still recording.
Okay.
Just wet. So question 3, and I asked favorite kettlebell move to teach clients, and you said the swing. I thought it was going to be Turkish get up,
which is a great move.
Talk about the swing.
The swing is just a great progression from the deadlift, and it can be used in many different ways. I feel like it gives them a lot of options, whether you want to use it for cardio, whether you want to use it for hip extension, whether you want to use it for your glutes. I just feel like it gives you a lot more. But the Turkish get up is a great move as well, which is, if you could do one move the rest of your life, Turkish get up is the way to go.
Question number 4. How many kettlebells do you have in your home?
So I have a double 12 kg, so that's 2. I have double 18s, that's 4. I have double 20s, that's 6. I have a 54 pounder, so that's 7. And I have a 10 pounder, that's 8. And a 15 pounder, that's 9. And I probably have one more in there. So about 9 to 10.
Okay. And last one, what kettlebell move are you working on the most right now?
Am I working on for myself right now?
For yourself.
Well, right now in my training, I've kind of got more barbell training right now. So I would say the Turkish get-up.
Okay.
That's the one thing that I'm just doing more now. Like I said, once you stop doing these things, it's kind of like when you're working with dumbbells and you get calluses. It becomes harder on the body, or it feels different. So right now I'm just trying to work my way back up to a heavy Turkish get-up. So like right now the 12 kg feels kind of heavy, but if you're doing this consistently, it feels super light. So I'm just kind of working myself up to a heavier load.
Gotcha.
That would be what I'll be working on right now.
And you transitioned that in so well with the Turkish get-up. We're talking about get-up. Ruby, what helps you rise up in the morning, get up? Like, if you're having something not so well going on in your life, or maybe in a rut, or things are even going great, like what's your pillar when you wake up, rise up, to help you have that day?
I mean, I don't really have, I mean, you just have to do it. There's always going to be something that happens, something that's in the way, something that doesn't go right, something. So that's where I guess you fall back on discipline and on whatever routines and habits you have set in place. I don't even use an alarm clock to wake up in the morning. I usually wake up every morning, depending on my first client, 3:40 a.m., 4:40 a.m., 4 a.m. So that's something that I've trained myself to kind of just know when to wake up. Of course, I wake up sometimes a little sooner, but I'm at the point now where today I woke up and, like, you know how you're cozy in bed and you're like just gonna turn around, but I was like, oh, look at the clock, Ruby, look at the clock. So I go look at the clock and it was exactly 4:40. I was like, oh, I have to get up literally right now. So I've kind of trained my body to just know when to wake up. And then I'm a pretty person. Once I get up and I get dressed, brush my teeth, and do all the things I gotta do, I'm up and ready to rock. I like things to get done early, and then I can have the evening to myself and relax and organize and do whatever I need to do later in the day.
Oh, so good. That was Rubi Sanchez. If you have any questions about training, kettlebells, man, it's sort of like if I think one of the biggest takeaways too is showing you can do it with the boys. I think like that stigma is starting to go away, right?
For sure,
like,
and that's very great to see and be a part of. And yeah,
but if someone thinks they can't, guy or girl, like, I'm coming to Ruby for kettlebell help, right? Like, if there's something that you think she can help you with, like, I'll leave her socials in the comments and everything, so you'll be able to reach out. Ruby, thank you for taking this on.
Thank you for your time, Mike. Yeah. And I just want to leave you with this, that not even so much about female and gender things, but any adversity in life, whether you have a disability, whether you have anything going on, do not let somebody's opinion or diagnosis be your story. Like, whatever you want to do, you can push through it and you can get it done. And don't let nobody tell you that you can't do something.
Beautiful.
That's what I'm going to leave you with.
That's why we do this.
Exactly.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.